We are live. All right, we'd like to welcome everyone to our school board meeting today. We'd like to call this meeting to order and recognize that Mrs. Cherry is not with us, but she's joining this meeting via Zoom. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and Mr. Gunsmood is not.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The board will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Vice Chair, I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. The board will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meetings.
Madam Vice Chair, I still move.
Is there a second?
Oh, wait a minute, I should say that we approve all three.
Yes. Okay. Can you second that? Right, those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. We'll get started. Every month is busy, but I think the last month is like the end of the toilet paper roll. It just goes faster, and there we go. It's so fast. So we'll go ahead and get started today. Couple trainings that I went to with Mrs. DeGraw. We went to the federal programs training a couple of weeks ago, and there's another one that
The law conference.
the law conferences that we went to as well. So there were so many different things going on. I know that Andrea, you went with us there as well. And then the school board scholarships. Thank you for those that were there. I know Mr. Schmidt was there, and also the staff and student lunch. And so a couple days ago, we had lunch that the school board served out to all the staff and students, and appreciate their time coming. Quickly with the departments, our food service, they did serve the Hawaiian pulled pork during that lunch where the school board came and served it. Mrs. Ward has also been applying for grants, different things, getting some policies that we'll talk about a little bit later on as she's working through her program. One thing that's going to be just an important reminder, they're trying to clean up their financials at the end of the year. We're still, I know COVID is keep being brought up, but since the COVID time, we've had a harder time getting people to pay their accounts on time. And it's just one of those things that they're working through as well. So if you get messages out from our lunch department, they're just trying to close up their books by the end of the school year. Maintenance and ground, focusing on summer projects. Our technology department will be working on Chromebook returns and the new website and communication system. So parents, you may be getting some emails talking about the communication system. We are going to be updating that over the summer. We started rolling it out little by little these last couple of months. And it's called Rooms with Aptigee. And also the way that messages are sent are through that we have an app called ThrillShare. So if you see things that say either ThrillShare or Aptigee or Rooms, that is coming from the district. Our current text message system is going to expire on May 25th, and we will be going towards with this one next year. An advantage of this, and I talked about it a couple boards meetings ago, is that the teachers can have more direct contact with parents. They can send pictures home of different activities that are going on in the classroom. It's going to be a really good app for us to have that communication. The goal is to move away from all like Remind Me or Group, it's probably Remind or Group Me apps, things like that. We want our staff members, our coaches to be communicating with kids through this app. So it'll be really important that. So the name of it is Aptigee Rooms, and it's that same one, if you remember, that has, if you go to the
That's our app,
the West Jefferson app, if you go to the Apple Store or and so what that is if you have students here in the school, there's an extra invite that comes out, and you can toggle right to communicate with the teachers through that same app. So it's going to be great, but there's always, never fails, anytime you have a technology rollout, there's always some hiccups. And so they're working through it. And I appreciate Mr. Guimar and Mr. Reyna and Julie Hall. They've been doing a great job of having these meetings with the company and getting that set up. Transportation, Mr. Pincock's always looking for bus drivers, and I have heard through the grapevine that there are several that have mentioned, hey, what do I need to do to come help drive activity buses? Thank you for those that are asking about that. Always looking to find ways. We do need another route driver. Our route drivers, if you know anybody that wants to have some funding that goes towards retirement, we make sure that all of our route drivers have at least 20 hours a week, which you do qualify for Percy benefits, which is retirement. So that might be something if there are any farmers out there that want a little bit of extra retirement. I'm not looking at you, Tyson. I know you have to quit the board. Don't jump too quick to come drive bus for us. But that's something that we do offer to all of our bus drivers, and that is a nice perk of that. Our athletics hosted both track and softball district tournaments. We weren't supposed to do this. We weren't scheduled to do track and softball. There were other schools in our district, and I won't even say that, but maybe I will because it's West Jefferson. So Firth was supposed to host track. Their track wasn't ready yet. And so we volunteered to do
Are
that.
they building a new track? or
So they
resurfacing?
resurfaced and redid theirs,
Oh.
but they just didn't have all of the event
Oh.
things. The junior high track, district track was held there,
Mm.
and it looks nice. They had, their track's been there for a lot of years, but they have those trees underneath that started growing and the roots were hitting
Oh.
and causing it, so they couldn't hold any official track meets. Their main track's done, but some of their jumping stuff isn't completely ready for that. So we took that on, and then North Fremont was supposed to host the softball, but because of all the snow, they knew they couldn't. Ryrie volunteered to do it, but then with all the melting snow around Ryrie, their field got flooded and wouldn't dry.
Mhm.
And Salmon couldn't host it because they were hosting baseball.
Mm.
And so guess who got to do softball? So I appreciate Mr. Hadley, and we couldn't have done it without Mr. Hansen and Coach Sweeter. When they're running a track, like all of the timing events, it has to be so laid out and detail oriented. And that's one thing. Mr. Hansen's been doing that for years, and you can't find a better person that can help organize a track meet than John Hansen. He just does a great job with that. And Coach Sweeter was, there's a lot of responsibility on the head coach to do that, and they organized it. Our whole coaching staff, they did excellent. So we'll move on to some of the schools. We did have a fun assembly called Bikers Against Bullies. Mr. Johnson reached out to a group. This is a group of bikers that come in and they talk about being kind and nice and an anti-bullying. And so the Harleys, they did have a couple Harleys that were rolled into the gym and put on mats there, and they started them up there. Mr. Johnson just showed up and they revved them up, right? And so it was fun for the kids. And here we can see Jaron Rojas learning about how to stand up to bullies, or right there. Other things with our elementary schools, we had our spring music review at Terraton and Hamer Elementary. That was a lot of fun. Mrs. Dowling has done a great job with that. Field trips galore this last week, and thank you to all the parent volunteers that were able to come and go to the different field trips. And if I'm talking about field trips, I got to say thank you also to Mrs. Van Epps. When Mrs. Van Epps does any concessions at the games or things, that goes into the field trip fund, the student fund for the school. And so there's many people that come and help her out, and the kids have been able to go on a lot of fun field trips this spring. So appreciate her doing that. And thanks to our PTO for helping out with the field day that came the afternoon after the board luncheon. And then the second grade talent show is today, and the fourth grade Lewis and Clark play is coming up. And I know Mrs. Rigby, you've been helping organize that a little bit. So that'll be next week, right?
Yeah, Monday and Wednesday.
Be a lot of fun. Secondary schools, junior high had their leadership elections. Shad Williams, president, Brewer Burnshaw, vice president, Emmy Scott, secretary, activity managers, Presley Falter and Wendy Munoz, historian Kendall Feist-Hamill. And our junior high is at the Mud Lake Canoe activity today. And so they are out there with their teachers. Thanks for their advisors and teachers and others who have helped organize that. Mr. Mackey, Mr. Harrelson put a lot into getting that organized as well. Distinguished Young Women, Ethne Schaefer was voted as the winner of that. And thank you to all the other girls that participated in this scholarship activity. And then a fundraising activity was the Mr. West Jefferson in Branson Neville was the winner of that one. A horticulture class is Mr. Bird's final year in the greenhouse. It was a huge success. And it's been fun because Cheryl's been bringing pictures around that she's been rounding up, and I've been in some of those pictures that she brings around, and it has a really young Mr. Bird and a really young Mr. Williams in those pictures. So those are fun. Scholarship presentations. Here's Mr. Schmidt presenting the scholarship to Diana Bonilla. And so we've had over, what was the amount of local scholarships?
Well, what they said was right around $35,000.
So we had that, we had that under on that one. So it was 35,000 from the local businesses and families. We really appreciate our local families supporting the schools, and also to those seniors who chose to apply for those. If you have anybody who's listening, if you have younger classmen, juniors and below, look for those local scholarships. Encourage your kids to sign up for them. The school has the applications available for them. And if parents, if you have any questions, how you can help your kids fill these out, contact Mr. Guimar. He'd be happy to help you with that. High school leadership elections, freshman class, Brody Pancari, President, Jaden Wilcox, Vice President, Paisley Summers, President, Chase Van Epps, Vice President, junior class, Tate Simmons, President, Boone Burtonshaw, Vice President, senior class, Joanna Saldana, President. I don't know why there's not a Vice President, but that's what they turned into me. And student body president, Cicely Jacobs and Bentley Lounsbury, Vice President. Cheerleader tryouts are in progress for next year. And also we had a spring band and orchestra concert. I believe that was last night as well. Spring sports, 4 athletes qualified for states for track. Creed Jacobs in the pole vault and triple jump, Raleigh Calder long jump, Jackson Van Epps discus, and Catherine Model on the 100-meter hurdles. That starts tomorrow in Middleton. I should have checked to see if that one might be on NFHS. I believe Creed starts first off right at 9:00, if anyone's watching that. And then the softball team, 6 years in a row, district champions. Congratulations to Coach Torgerson and the girls. They will be going to Pocatello this afternoon. They start tomorrow against, I think it was Napa Christian.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Tomorrow's event is going to start on YouTube Live. I don't know if that's Jed's YouTube Live.
I think it is. I don't think they're NFH.
Until Saturday.
Might be Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon or Saturday. So we'll have to advance first, but the first couple of games aren't on NFHS.
Can I make a comment, please?
You betcha.
The last 2 years, our softball team took second in state.
Yes.
The last 2 years.
We're hoping
So we're hoping this year.
this is the year, but nothing to, I should get the information on how many years we've gone to state. But for sure, 6 years in a row, we've gone as district champions. So that's awesome. So another plug for high school drama, the musical, High School Musical. Monday, there's 2 shows. Thursday, there's 2 shows. And Friday, there's 1 show. And graduation is going to be Wednesday at 7:00. The board be aware of that. And the last day of school is May 25th. Madam Vice Chair, that's all I have. If there's any other questions or comments, I could.
All right, thank you. Mrs. DeGraw, are there any public comments?
No.
Okay. We will move on then. Board will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, someone.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Madam Vice Chair.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes. Move into our action items. Policy 7000 series.
So the 7,000 series, this is the one about financial policies. We reviewed these in February and in March. When we submitted what we looked at to the ISBA, they did a final approval for edits. They sent us back those approvals. We had our first reading on April 20th, and this would be the second reading for that. And so It looks like everything that we've talked about through our work meetings and board meetings has been put in and then at least revisited by ISBA. And so at this point, we're just to a point, unless there's questions or discussion that I can help answer, we are ready to have this policy available to be voted on.
Okay. The board will entertain a motion to approve policy 7,000 series.
Madam Vice Chair, I so move.
For a second,
Madam Vice Chair, I second that.
right? Those in favor.
Aye.
Motion passes. We will now look at curriculum adoption for social studies business students.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I've invited Mr. Johnson to come. Mr. Johnson put together two different committees for 4.2 and 4.3 on our agenda. And so if we invite Mr. Johnson, you probably can come up just to the front if you want to. You can probably even sit at the front row if you want to. And yeah, you can come there or even put a chair there if you want to.
Either way.
Yeah, I'll pull it up here. So here's the presentation from the curriculum committee and Mr. Johnson, you'll have a recommendation from this committee to the board on this one. Okay.
So really quickly, we were looking at a new social studies curriculum for 5th and 6th grade. And Mr. Mackey came to me and was like, hey, this is something it's outdated. We would like a new one. And I said, okay, let's get a committee together and let's look at a variety of different curriculums and get some different ideas. So we did invite 2 parents. We also had 2 teachers and I was on the committee as well. And if you'll go to the next slide. So
One thing on that, Mr. Mackey also sent out a message to all parents to come and look at that as well. So this was presented to everyone on that.
So if you look, these were the 2 that were kind of red flags for us that we eliminated from what the committee wanted. One of the reasons was with this first one, Sabas, is it had a lot more liberal views. When we read through the different topics, the parents had concerns about that. They covered a lot more hot topics, if you will, including religion and activist views. And it focused more on human conflicts rather than thinking outside the box and seeing 2 different perspectives, if you will. So especially in the community we're in, we felt like that wasn't the best fit. The next one we looked at was this Nystrom one. Mr. Mackey didn't like this one and we eliminated it pretty quickly because it didn't even have any 6th grade materials. And then as he was like looking at the curriculum map type thing, it wouldn't even cover the whole school year. So we would have to implement a lot more anyways. And so that was another one. So the McGraw-Hill is the one that the committee liked the most. These are just some quick notes. I may not go over every single one of these, but basically some things that stood out to them. There was a lot of interactive maps and I did, and I think it's on there too, the link. There's a link and a username and password that you can go into to look on the online stuff. There's lots of online that the students can go and click on and it's interactive. They have lots of maps and things in there. They have different videos in there. And so I think a lot of that online interaction was really enticing as well. It focused a lot more on the United States and broke it down into different regions. Mr. Mackey really liked the vocabulary. He said it was a lot easier to find and to look at. Something that Mrs. Furness said is it seems more connected to online resources and does give guidance to teaching topics like recognizing bias. So, and I think was a big seller for us, was being able to see that, yes, you may have different views, but it's okay to have different views and without focusing on just the conflict. So. And then I have another one that has some more pros for the other part of it, but overall it gets one of the feedback or one of the things that I think it was one of the parents said was it makes them think more like a historian. And it focuses on that critical thinking and analyzing things rather than just a one-sided, if you will. Mr. Mackey said he loves that it actually covers the text of the Constitution on there. And that was something he appreciated rather than just an interpretation of it. It actually broke it apart and had the students read the actual Constitution. Like I said, there's lots of interactive slides and different things. This is just where you go to get that online preview, and you can use a username or password, and can share that as well. So there's two different, I guess, Mr. Mackey for the cost. Originally, this is the cost that he gave us, and it was a 6-year, and for 6 years. For the geography portion of it was $2,971.80. And then for the history side of it was $3,492.90. Again, that's for 6 years. So the total cost with shipping was $6,844.45. I did ask him, I said, Mr. Mackey, is there any way you can give me one for just 1 year, just so we can see the difference? And if you'll go down to the next one, I think that's where I put that. So for 1 year subscription, it's actually really cheap. And even the 6 year is a good deal for 6 years. I'm not trying to sell it, but but if you look at this, it's only $85.89 for the geography part, and for the US history, it was $102.57. That total cost does not include the shipping though. And so this is just for the program.
A lot of, I think,
So that's just the online portion?
No, I think.
because this here doesn't look like it could be
That
correct.
looks like a one person.
Maybe, I don't know.
That has to be,
That's
I
just the number she gave me.
think that has to be for one person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's way cheap.
And he
No,
was looking at 30. Sorry, for-
Yeah, 30. Yeah, that
At
looks
least
about
that's
right.
what-
So
so you get the book and then you get the online. So the,
So it's 2,500 for
comes
1
with-
year.
It
If you're
comes
doing
with,
30,
Mhm.
well, you should go back down.
Yeah, so this is for one student, but it would be 2,000 for 1 year.
Versus the.
The 6,
3,000 for the 1 year.
yeah, so the 6 year is the best. You know,
anyways, so about the materials, you do get teachers' manuals for both the history and the geography, and then you also get the students' books. And then everything else is online, and they do have online different worksheets and things that the teacher can print out if they want to, or assign them.
so when they say for 6 years, the book, of course, is gonna last a lot longer, but then you have to renew that subscription. to keep the same book. Okay.
Would you keep the same book or get a new set of books after 6 years? Does the book last longer? Are there updates that they make to this?
That I don't know. I don't know for sure. After 6 years, you probably have to renew it. And a lot of times, like I know with our math, once you renew it, it depends if they've updated it or not. So I don't know for sure on that one, but I can look into it if you like. And then this is.
We'll wait on that one.
Yeah.
Let's stay on this one here.
So Mrs. Perkins and had the chance to review the textbook,
Mhm.
and I reviewed the teacher manual edition as well, and we both looked at it online. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was pretty benign. I thought they presented things pretty fairly. Like Columbus, you look at all the hot spots and you see what they're presenting for those, and it was more, some people think, it was not.
This is how it
This
is.
is how it is, and I like that about it, so I felt like it was not. For this area, I think it's probably gonna be, it's fine.
The online portion of it seemed pretty good, that it had both information for the teacher as well as the student. It wasn't just for the student. The videos are interactive. Some of the videos seem to be quite old, but they still have the information there that needed to be taught. So I thought those were beneficial.
History doesn't change unless we change it.
So it's pretty straightforward then, the history, they not trying to add any cultural change kind of stuff.
Not that I saw, not what the committee saw, like for the majority, we really liked it. There was a lot more pros on this one.
Pretty fair about climate change and, it looked at all the hot spots. And I thought they were pretty there.
And One thing that I really liked is going back to just some of the reviews from the parents. I'm not sure if it, especially Mrs. Furness's one, it gives guidance to topics like recognizing bias
Yeah.
and also how to recognize where someone's coming from. In my university courses, I took a lot of history classes as well, and that was a big focal point. Is recognize the bias of who is writing that
Mhm.
and why they would be writing it that way. And what would the counter argument be that, and think about both sides and see, but then you also look at it as if they did this at that time in history. What was the bias back then, or what was the cultural norms back then? You can't always just look at something and make a judgment based on where we're at right now in our lives. And so that, to me, that's a great comment that the parent that came in and reviewed it.
And I think going down to the next slide, that's why I highlighted and underlined this one was
Critical thinking.
just the critical thinking. If we can teach these kids to be critical thinkers, and you know what? Because you're always, we're drilled this, doesn't mean we can see opposing sides and try to see points of views that may be opposing.
It looked like they had a critical thinking exercise or.
And they call it that. They
Yeah,
do.
they do.
In there, they actually call it critical thinking, and then it has like a critical thinking question.
Like they had it very often, like in every. So.
So I have a question, and maybe you're not the one to answer
okay.
this, but are the books that the students have, are they going to stay in the classroom, or is that something that will go home? And then the second part of that question is the online portion. Do these students have the ability to log in during the class to that online portion, or is that something that they do at home?
Okay, so to answer your first question, right now, I know Mr. Mackey has them staying in the classroom unless there's an absolute reason that they need to take it home and finish an assignment or something. But for the most part, I think they'd stay in the classroom. That's what he's done in the past, so I don't think he would change that. But I would have to ask him for clarification on that. As far as the online access, they can log in both
Okay.
during class and there. And at home.
Those are big, heavy books.
They are heavy. I just think that they would hold up better
They say
if
they
it's
log in.
left
I
in the
agree.
classroom, and if they had to do something in relation to a chapter, that's where the online portion.
Mhm.
But I can understand why they would have to take them home occasionally.
Yeah.
They didn't
But
have that.
I normally he doesn't do that. You normally they stay in the classroom, so I don't anticipate him doing that, but
So did you buy 2 classroom sets or does he rotate them?
no, I think you would rotate them because there's 5A, 5B, and then the 6A and then 6B class that they rotate.
Okay,
So
that's good.
yeah, I think you'd still have to buy as far as like the license part goes. Everybody would have to have their own online access, but
So with this, Mr. Johnson, the committee's recommendation would be the McGraw-Hill.
yes.
Okay, so that would be just, Madam Vice Chair, that would be just the curriculum would be McGraw-Hill.
And would it be for 1 year or 6 years? That's the other thing that needs to be clarified in this.
Well, Mr. Johnson, do you think that it's good enough to get for 6 years?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I don't see this isn't like our new Zello where we want a trial period. It's like, let's
Right,
do this.
yeah.
Let's go.
Okay.
All right, are there any other questions? Okay. The board will entertain a motion to approve the curriculum adoption of the McGraw-Hill for 6 years for the 5th and 6th grade.
Madam Vice Chair, I so move.
There's a second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Thank you. We'll move into curriculum adoption New Zealand for 5th to 8th grade.
It's rolling.
We can slow down on this one.
Yeah, don't keep going. There we go.
So. It's okay, if you want me to-
Maybe just give a quick recap, a little bit of like when you came the last time.
Okay, so the last time we came, I came in and presented with you, Zella, we talked about how it's an online resource that had lots of text and a variety of text where we wanted the students to go and look at. We decided that we were going to let them implement that for the last few months and let all the teachers get a feel for it. And I think we did K, was it K or first? Maybe it was first.
I think it was 1 through 4.
I think it was 1 for, I just saw the K there, wait, no. It was, I think it was 1 through 6. I think it was 1 6. Anyways, so some of them jumped on it more than others. But as the teachers looked into it, they felt like for K4, it wasn't the best for them. As far as like the different text in there, but also their biggest thing is, I think they spend some time on the computer as is, so let's read a book and kind of veered away from the online reading. But after talking to Mrs. Erickson and Mrs. Peterson, they absolutely loved it. They want to continue to use it. And so I reached out to Newsela and just wanted to get an idea of what that would cost, what it would look like, because we're not buying it for everybody. Is there a way that they could make it cheaper for us if we just did it for the 2 teachers that really liked it and used it, and it's more appropriate for those grade levels? So for 5th through 8th grade, for both teachers to have access to it, the total cost for this next year would be $2,893.53. So that is again what we're proposing, because getting that feedback. I know when last time I met, I said I'd follow up with you and say, okay, this is what we tried it, this is what we came up with. So
So they didn't like it for 1 through 4.
yeah, it was a resource that
I think it was more geared for the older kids.
I think so. I think so,
That's
because
what-
it's more of the online reading and the text. I know my 4th graders used it a little bit to do some research in, and they like that, but they realized they could get their research elsewhere. And so it wasn't worth it to them to keep it.
Is it worth it for 5th, 6th?
Mrs. Peterson's excited to use it with the different text and also the different, the option that they have to do the book studies as well with it, and different activities that are built in with it. She also uses some of the I call it classrooms. I don't remember off the top of my head, where she can link it as well to what she's doing. And so
Yeah.
for her, she really liked it, and Mrs. Erickson absolutely loves it. So
And they use it enough to justify
mhm,
that cost.
mhm.
And that's a year subscription.
Yes, I believe so.
Do they not have multiple year, or is it?
I can ask them. I don't remember. if
I
they have
don't either.
multiple
They
year or
do,
not.
that works out to about $723 per grade.
Great.
And the other thing with Newsela being it's updated with more recent things as well, and that's part of your buying something that don't
And
become obsolete.
some of the other additional feedback, I know last time we had some concerns about different blocking things, and as they update it, how do we block that? One thing that we found that works really, really well is that the teachers only assign certain articles and only allow students enough time to work on those articles.
Okay.
Because where we ran into our bigger concerns was in another, it wasn't in these upper grades, but in the younger grades where a teacher would just say, hey, go research. And then they start researching and looking up different things in Newsela, whereas this one, it was a lot easier because they assigned the articles. And so Mrs. Peterson and Mrs. Erickson are a lot better about that. That makes sense.
See.
I know when I talked with Mrs. Erickson, I haven't talked with Mrs. Peterson, but I did talk with Mrs. Erickson about that, and she really utilizes it and likes it.
In your opinion,
Mhm.
is there something they could use that's just as good?
If I find it, I'll let you know. I haven't found it yet. I do love books. I'm gonna be honest, in my own personal opinion, I love actual books, but I think where we're doing so much assessments online, that this actually helps them a lot, because even with our ISAT testing, for example, they have to be able to read online. They have to be able to mark the text and find the text and underline different things. And if that's how we're assessing, then I feel like this is important for them.
This gives them experience doing that.
Mhm. So,
Okay, I just don't want to buy something that's just a flash in the pan or
mhm.
Yeah.
something that
And I think that's where where I feel really strong that these teachers are using it correctly and using it in a way that's more beneficial for the students.
And by us being able to go through that trial period, we recognize that 1 through 4 wouldn't use it. And so so thank you, Mr. Johnson, for setting that up.
Probably more able to stay on track, right? At these older grades, they're able to stay more on track with it instead of doing other things.
So the younger kids seem to like the books better than to go online.
I think it's better. It's just different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's where it is. When you're having a first grader who's still just learning to read, I do a lot better on a book
Yeah,
than.
they probably just want some physical and that they can read.
And there are other things that the younger classes have available with the online that the older kids don't, with some of our interventions. I know that my second grader, he liked it, he liked Mozilla, but it's also a classroom management thing where I don't think you would utilize it as much in those lower classes, and so why spend money on it? If it's not gonna be utilized to this fullest extent, so good questions.
Any other comments? Okay. The board will entertain a motion to approve the curriculum adoption of Newsela for 5th to 8th grade.
Madam Chair, I so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
I
Motion passes.
I wouldn't mind hearing in a year how this worked out.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can definitely invite Mrs. Erickson and Mrs.
Yeah.
Peterson in. Just
To see how-
even partway through the year
Okay.
would be a good idea.
I love that.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. We'll move on to our discussion items.
Graduation, May 24th, 7 PM. That'll be here at Panther Inn. We will have a spot for our board members. In I don't know, Carrie, in the past, I can't remember from one year to the other. My first year.
We do have to have a board member accept the graduates.
Mhm.
Mrs. Rigby is going to do that this year. She's already received the information as to what she needs to be doing.
And then seating arrangements, that's one thing we need to find out.
They will sit behind the podium on the opposite
The
side of
opposite
the
side.
teachers.
Are we asking or having spouses come or
You're
not?
welcome to have your spouse sit with you.
Okay,
Flex mom.
if they want to, so that you might have some spouses that say don't. My wife says she's not gonna come unless she can sit by me.
Oh,
I shaved my mustache off.
There you
so.
She now wants to be close.
So that's all. Is there anything else we need to know on the graduation? I think it'll be pretty simple. We'll all go up and shake the hands as they come across. Okay. 5.2, proposed fee increases. And 5.3, these two are kind of connected. That we have the fee increase at the public hearing. And so here with 5.2, this is the only department that has brought to our attention of a fee increase. And that would be from our lunchroom. So here's our 2022-23. This is what we're paying, what people are paying this year for a lunch. And then the proposed changes. So the elementary lunch would be $2.85, go from $2.85 to $3. High school $3 to $3.25, and breakfast up 15 cents. And so you can see the percentage is 5%, 8%, 7%. Just trying to kind of stay close to inflation with that. But because the state statutes read that there's a fee increase of 5% or more, it needs to go to a fee hearing. And I look at that, you still can't go and buy a lunch for $3.25 anywhere. And so that's what we have for that information. That's just an FYI to the board or those that are listening, but that's what the fee, the public increase. So on June 15th, if you have comments, the public are invited to come and make comments about that before the board makes its final decision. Also on June 15th is our budget hearing. The attachment there is just information on what it is. We did this at the board. A lot of this is just reminding everybody, isn't it? Here's gonna be a first reading of policy 8245. We haven't gotten to the 8000s. However, when Mrs. Ward, with her trainings, she was informed that the school district does need to have a policy in place about unpaid school meal charges. And so we will get the board a copy of this to be able to take
I
home.
think they have a.
You have that already
Yes.
provided, Mrs. DeGraw, thank you. And this is one that patrons at home, if you're looking at that and want to give feedback, this is the policy that we will be discussing just about unpaid meals, and so.
And Mrs. Ward helped set the values on this policy.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make you lay that down.
You got one look here.
And that's, I don't have anything else except have a chance to read through that. If there's any comments that you guys have right now, or we can move to the next.
And if you have feedback on it, please let me know before the next meeting. And we will have it to be a first reading again if there are changes.
All right, our next one, graduation requirements.
So with the board voting to move our calendar to semester, and we do appreciate those patrons who gave their comment and also the teachers that gave their comment. Rarely do we have situations where everybody agrees on the same thing, but we do appreciate that feedback. Semester calendar will be next year, but we will also not start earlier and later. So the start and end times are the exact same time with that. But we do need to look at our graduation requirements. Now, what they will change from. So here's our current handbook with the trimesters. And Mrs. DeGraw.
Yeah.
Can you maybe grab maybe a water for Mrs.
Absolutely.
And for me as well?
Yeah.
Two waters, please. So you can see that 2023 was required of 59 credits. But if we look at these other ones, I believe the board has those in front of you.
Yeah.
Thank you. This one with the comparison, the state of Idaho requirements have a total of 46 credits, and you can see the breakdown with English 8, speech 1, and so forth. Our current trimester has 59, and then a draft. Again, this is a discussion time. This is just to let this information get out, but we will propose to have a work meeting to put these together and then have another vote later on throughout the summer. So that's going to be the process. It's not going to be a quick.
You go to the other page that has the years for semester.
Right there,
No, it's the bottom
the
one.
bottom one.
That was trimesters. This is semesters. The reason that we would go to 46 credits along with the state would be because students who do release time would lose 2 credits per year, which would reduce it by 8 credits that they'd be available to take.
Yeah,
And so if we had it at 48 credits, there would be no room for a student to mess up. So having it at 46 gives them 2 classes to be able to have that flexibility.
and then another proposal and reason why 46 would be matching up with the state is that the online offering would also fall right in line with that. So those are all the conversations that we'll have at the work meeting, but you know, we can discuss or ask different things here. Again, like I said, it's just a discussion time to start getting this information out and visiting about it.
Changes electives.
So the electives, if you look at I think you. Yes, so. The West Jefferson current, like for the trimester, we have several things that over the years, and I don't even know the why behind them. But over the years, there have been other things that have been put into West Jefferson's graduation requirements that were above and beyond.
So they lump them in the
Yes.
state, all the electives.
Yes.
Got them spelled out.
And we have them spelled out, and so humanities would be 2 instead of the 3. The practical arts would just fall back into the electives
I see.
on that.
Maybe we did that to spread out our teachers or to use our teachers.
And I don't know if it really did that or not, I don't know if it's accomplished what it did. I know that like with the mathematics, the reason why it was 9 is because we had 3 trimesters. We were trying to teach math all year long. And so the hope is that moving to the semester streamlines it, and again, it balances better with our online offerings that we're wanting to create. But yeah, that's a good catch on that when you're going, wait a minute. So that's gonna be the thing that when you look at the draft, are we still going to have practical arts or humanities, or are we going to put them down into electives?
That's
The other thing, when you look at world history, that's another one.
Mhm.
World history, when you come over here,
There.
it isn't there. But social studies has five credits that need to take place. Is that going to be a requirement that we still have? You know, those are some questions and things that we're going to have to discuss during a work meeting. And of course, we'll be inviting Mr. Demar and probably the teachers that maybe have these electives that are like, what needs to be required, what doesn't, and should they be? You know, I don't know if they really need to be.
Interesting.
Yeah. You know, the state doesn't require a PE credit,
And we do.
and we do. And so, you know, it's like, so those are things that I don't know, I'd be interested to see the feedback from the teachers on that.
Yeah.
And as the board now has this information, you can start thinking about that and reflecting on that. Go forward.
All right, are there any other comments? Okay, move to our last item, scheduling a special meeting.
And I don't have my calendar in front of me. No, if you wouldn't mind, oh, you brought the water in. Definitely not next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we look at-
I think we're looking into June, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So our next board meeting is June
15th,
Which is our budget.
thank you. If it could be the week of the 5th, maybe the week before, that's,
like the 8th and 9th.
yeah, 8th or 9th, or even Wednesday the 7th could work. I wouldn't want to do Wednesday the 31st. There's a 4-H meeting that I'm in charge of. Yeah, I'll be teaching about digestive systems.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
What's that?
In ruminant animals.
So the 7th,
That's fine.
7th or 8th, board, what would you guys prefer?
So 7th is
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
8th is a Thursday.
I can do both of those. Even-
And our meeting next month is moving to the morning time. It's 9 o'clock.
Starting in the
In
morning,
the morning.
which is
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, does that mean executive is 8:30 or 8:15?
If needed. Yeah.
if needed.
So we don't start executive at 9.
Well, I think normally our meetings will start at 10. But
Oh.
because it's our budget hearing in June, we start an hour earlier.
Yeah, because we have the budget hearing, then the,
Amended,
Amended
we have
budget.
amended budget hearing,
And then the
and
budget.
then the fee increase.
For some reason, I have 9 on the summer ones. Must have written
Look.
that on. Yeah,
yeah,
I went home and put them on my calendar and I've got 9 o'clock.
So our calendar says 10 for regular meetings during the summer.
and maybe 9 o'clock is the
Exactly.
executive, so let's not hold an executive unless needed on that day.
And if need be, we can go into executive after our fee hearing.
Okay.
And then that way we keep everything at 9.
I think Thursday would be better for me.
Thursday, okay.
What time? You wanna do it at 10,
Or 9.
Early, preferably. if we
9
can.
o'clock?
9,
9.
Nine's fine.
Okay.
8 at 9?
Thursday at 8.
Works for me, Mrs. DeBrock.
Some graduation requirements.
And that will be a special meeting, not just a work meeting.
Right, are there any other comments?
Oh, it's a special. Which one's a special?
On the 8th will be a special, we'll do a special meeting and then a work meeting.
Why do we need it to be special?
We're anticipating the teachers,
The teacher negotiations,
negotiations.
oh,
so then we'll
Finalize
get
by then.
contracts out.
Okay.
Great, there's no other comments. Board will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Madam Vice Chair, I so move.
Madam Chair, I second. Madam Vice Chair. I second.
Those in favor,
I
Aye.
this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.